Chapter 34. Alistair, Point of View. Not to worry, Your Highness. Her body is just resting. She will wake up soon, the doctor said as I groaned. You have been saying that for 2 days. Why isn't she waking up? I shouted, but stopped on seeing my child flinch away. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I have done everything. Her heart and brain are normal. She herself has willingly gone into a coma. We can't do anything but wait for her to come back, he said as I groaned. I picked up my child and nodded at the doctor before entering my bedroom. I looked at Ariana, who lay on the bed unconscious. She was breathing normally, and she looked healthy as ever. Go and sit with Mummy. Daddy needs to shower, I said, as Noah nodded and lay down next to his mother. I went to the bathroom and took a long, hot shower. The shower eased some of my worries, and I got out to find my baby boy fast asleep beside his mother. I kissed both of their head and went to take care of my duties. Xavier, the king of Zoldian, has once again sent a threatened letter to the village bazaar, and the people are freaking out. I walked to the strategy room, and as soon as I entered, everyone stood up and bowed. The Zoldian warning is not to be considered as a play. We need to intensify the security. Under no circumstances should they be able to enter our terrain, I said as they nodded their head. Have you tried talking to the king, Your Highness? The War Minister asked as I shook my head. The king wants no other compensation. He is after our Power Stone. Under no circumstance should he have it. Combining their with ours will lead to a power enough to destroy a world, I said as they nodded. For now, we strengthen the defense. Make sure proper training is given to the soldiers. All villagers, no matter what category or level of strength, are to be given basic defense training, I continued as the others nodded. If that is all, I will take my leave. Submit the training schedule to Sir Vicus. If there is any case of emergency, contact me immediately, I said before walking to the office. I worked till dawn on my office work. After I finished half of my work, I walked my way back to the room.
Alistair!
I heard Hayla call me.
This is Noah's and your food. I thought you wouldn't want to leave her alone. Noah refused to eat anything. Please make sure he eats everything,
Hayla said as she handed me a tray. I entered my room and almost screamed at the sight. Ariana was sitting on the ground beside Noah, playing with the toys.
Alistair!
Ariana cried as she saw me. She ran and jumped on me. I stumbled and lost balance, falling on the ground, shocked. "Aria!" I screamed, happy to see her awake. "I was so damn frightened I lost you," I said as I hugged her tight.
I remember,
she said as I pulled away and looked at her. "What?" I asked as she smiled widely at me.
I saw our past together. I remember everything,
she said as my eyes widened. "But that's impossible," I said as she grinned at me.
I remember everything. I missed you so much.
She cried into my shirt as I hugged her close. Noah walked to us and I opened my hand for him. I took both of them in my arms and they laughed.
Wow, strong, Daddy,
Noah said as my queen nodded and laughed. I carried both of them to the bed, secretly thanking my magic for giving me extra support. "Let's fill both of your tummies," I said as they both grinned and sat in front of me. I took the tray. I magically transported to the table beside the bed. I swayed my hand and a vision formed in front of me. I played Tangled and looked at Ariana.
we used to see this movie all the time,
She said as my heart fills with happiness. She does remember. Few days later. "Ariana, you need to calm down. It's not easy to control a fully developed power all of a sudden," I shouted as the storm around her increased. "Aria, listen to my voice. Concentrate on yourself, on your power. Let the energy flow freely. Stop pressuring yourself," I continued, and it seems to be working. "That's it, beautiful. Deep breath. Don't let the power control you. You should control the power," I said as the storm around her kept decreasing. It finally vanished, and she fell on her knees, tired. It took every fiber in me not to run to her and check whether she was hurt. "Okay, Aria, back to the beginning. Ignite your power," I said as she painfully stood up. Her eyes glowed gold, and so did her body. She opened her hands and gold orbs formed. "Good girl. Now, slowly increase it. Remember to not let it control you. Deep breaths and commands," I said as she nodded. The gold orb successfully started to increase its power and enlarge. She is getting the hang of it. "Vicus, let's test her sensory skill," I shouted to Vicus, who stood in at control room above. He immediately changed the atmosphere to that of a desert and made a huge image of a creature at the far end. "Aria, aim and destroy that image," I shouted as she turned and looked at the massive statue of a werewolf. "Don't worry, Aria. I'm here. Just try, I said, as she nodded and threw the ball. But her direction and formation was so out of order that it went flying to the opposite direction, aka where I stood.
Alistair!
She screamed. I jumped out of the way, and the orb hit the wall of the training room. The scene around us blurred and went back to the metal walls as a huge hole formed on the wall. Great, Vicus said sarcastically as he came down from the control room.
Are you all right?
Ariana asked, coming to me as I smiled. I'm all right. Maybe you weren't ready for that part, I said, as I turned to look at Vicus. What do you think? I asked, as he groaned. She is very powerful, all right. The orb has passed the metal wall and destroyed the power regulators. Looks like we need maintenance to fix this, Vicus said, as Ariana looked at him with guilty.
Sorry,
She said, as I shook my head. Don't be. It's part of training, I said, as she smiled at me. Your Highness, a soldier shouted, running into the room. There was a minor attack in the east side of the terrain, the soldier shouted as my eyes widened. What? Any casualties? I asked as he shook his head. The attack didn't even last 10 minutes. It was in a flash. There was no damage, but... He stumbled as I stared at him in worry. But what? I asked as he gulped nervously. The little prince was playing there. Until now, we have no sign of him, he said, as my eyes widened in fear.